We're going to cover the best baits this weekend for Lake Fork, get you set up for success the best we can across all the lakes of Northeast Texas, including Power Plant Lakes, Lake Fork, all the other lakes in the area. Any questions you have tonight, I will do my best to answer as many as possible. Do me a favor, as you guys get in here, go ahead and hit that thumbs up if you enjoy these. Also, drop me a comment so I know who we sharing the knowledge with tonight. And if y'all don't mind, if you can figure out a way to share this thing and get it out to more people, I sure would appreciate it. Hey, it's cold. It's cold. Last couple of days have been all right temperature-wise. Wind was crazy today. It's colder tomorrow. It's going to be cold for the next week or so. It's that winter grind. We're in that, hey, there's a little bit of pre-spawn activity going on. We're going to talk about that tonight. But it's a little bit of that winter grind right now. But that is a great opportunity to go catch some really good quality size fish. Lakes are pretty empty right now, it seems. Power plant lakes aren't. Power plant, especially Welsh. Welsh is not empty by any means. Most of the other lakes in the area are pretty darn empty, and it's not every day. There are days where it was a grind. Today was a grind. Yesterday they bit pretty good. Today was a grind. But I can't tell you the last time I caught what I would call a small fish, other than the one we caught tournament day. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that. That's coming up on Monday. You'll see that. But like literally almost all the fish we catch right now are good quality fish. You just don't hardly catch any small fish this time of year. And I'm okay with that. Like I'll trade a handful of good quality bites for a high numbers days without those quality bites any day. So we're going to talk to you tonight about how to grind through the winter, how to take advantage of these big bass opportunities. I'm even going to take one of my jigs that I love to fish. I'm going to take it out, show you how I rig it. It's my top secret. Shh, don't tell nobody jig. So y'all do me a favor, don't tell nobody, or tell everybody. I don't care either way. However you want to do it. Let's see who we got working with us early in the stream tonight. We got Texas Air Gunner, Chance Lopez, Gary Payne, Kyle Hopkinson, Sharon Davidson, John Sherry, Cole Arnold, Jimmy Thermology, I can't say the middle one, Jeff Todef, David G, John Denny, David Cole, JD, Lake Commander, Jared Carson, Big John, J-Bo, what's up, Dusty Newton, Todd Udi, Ronnie Green, 6 Mile, JC, and Bryant White. Man, thank all you guys so much, very, very, very much for joining us tonight. All right. Oh, one other thing. Seminars are back. We got our live free seminars at Lake Fork Marina tomorrow night, 6 p.m. We're going to have a very, very special guest. He's been there before. It's been a long time. I'm glad he's coming back. I can't wait for him to come share some great knowledge. He's a great, great teacher. He's going to be there tomorrow night at the seminar. So if you guys are in the area, please stop by Lake Fork Marina, 6 p.m. We'll be up in the upper room up there at the tackle store, Lake Fork Marina, at 6 p.m. So come join us for that. I guess that being said, let's break down what we're using for baits, okay? So, man, the baits are pretty simple. You could vary off this a little bit. You could throw a jerk bait right now for sure on points and such like that. Points with timber, secondary points, main lake points, stuff like that. You could throw a lipless crankbait around some grass, that's for sure. That's definitely not out of the equation anywhere you go this time of year. You could throw a Movement 80X, a shallow diving crankbait. Believe it or not, there are some fish in some really shallow water, especially in water like that. That's that shallow, it has vegetation. What's going on, guys, is we got water temps around Lake Fork anywhere from 49 to 50 degrees. And down on Rayburn, heck, there was 54, 55, 56 degree water even after the cold front. So we're talking about less than 10 degrees from spawning. And I'm going to tell you, that ain't nothing. That ain't nothing but a good 3-day warming trend with warm nights. You get 3 warm nights in a row, that 10 degrees will happen just like that. And if you get that 10 degree warm up and you get a moon cycle anywhere near it, some fish will start pushing back into those, sure enough, actual spawning areas and get out of the drains within those areas. So you can find some fish in really shallow water where a bait like a Movement 80X comes into play this time of year. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. For me, though, I'm focusing on just a few baits. There's a few different things I'm doing. There's like 3 different areas I'm concentrating on. One is creek channel bends. I'm concentrating on creek channel bends and a little bit shallower creek channel bends, anywhere from 6, 8 feet down to 10, 12 feet. I'm not really fishing much deeper than 10 or 12 feet. And one trick I'm doing to figure that out is when I idle across the lake in the mouths of these creeks and the mouths of these coves in deeper water, I'm looking at my electronics as I idle in. And all the life source, the bait, everything here lately, last couple days especially, has been from about 10 or 12 foot and up. Therefore, my creek channel beds, I'm just not fishing much any deeper than that. And I fished a couple deeper ones the last couple days, and sure enough, I got no bites. So I need to trust what my knowledge there that I'm finding. But really, I'm concentrating where I see the life source in the middle of the coves. If it's 12 foot and up, man, I'm not fishing a creek bed any deeper than 12 foot at the bottom. It just isn't producing right now. So the shallower creek bends are the deal. Hey, we're fishing some of these little shallow shell bed, hard spot type of areas closer to the main lake, staging areas, pull-up areas, whatever you want to call them, feeding tables. But they're just sharp sloping, shallower related, and shallow to mid-depth, I would say, shell bed type areas. Same thing, anywhere from 3 or 4 foot on where I'm fishing all the way down to 10, 12 foot off the sides of them where I'm fishing. But the one combination is they have wind, they have bait in the area, and they've got hard bottoms with shell on them, mixed in shell, mixed in hard stuff like that. So, and really the loons are starting to key us in on Lake Fork specifically, and even on Sam Rayburn a little bit. I saw some loon activity that kind of clued me into some stuff. The loons are starting to key us in on where some of those fish are starting to pull up on those shallow feeding areas. So that deal's kind of just getting started. It's not really going yet. It's a once in a while bite type thing, but it can be a really big bite. So it's worth paying attention to. Now, on those shallow, on those shell bed, those hard spot areas, I'm Carolina rigging. I'm Carolina rigging this new hog wallow bait from 6 cents. Now this one's rigged up on a Texas rig. I just have it as an example. But basically this thing's like a modern take on a lizard. It's got a twin tail instead of a single tail and then legs. It's just a newer take on a lizard. But it's a really effective bait behind the Carolina rig early in the year. Even in that cold water, 50-degree water, they'll bite that sucker. So it's a great bait. That's my main bait on those type of areas. Remember, I need wind, I need hard spot, and I need it to be kind of at the mouth of a major creek. That's what I'm looking for. The second area that I'm focusing on, we'll talk about grass. A little bit of grass, still a little bit of grass in for it that you can fish, even this time of year that's got enough depth on it, and it is holding fish. Not just a tremendous amount of it all across the lake, but you can find isolated areas that have some good grass in it. And on other lakes, they have more grass. You go to Fairfield, it's full of grass. You go to Rayburn, had a lot of grass in it. A lot of lakes. I could sit here and try to name them off for you, but there's plenty of lakes around here. And if you have a grass lake, or if you're fishing fork and you want to fish the grass that's in it, I've got a 2-trick deal that I'm doing right now. Like I said earlier, it could be a lipless crankbait, it could be a moving ADX, it could be those type of things, but it could be a big bladed spinnerbait. Hey now. Anyway, what I've really been concentrating on lately, because in the backs of these creeks, if you get back in these areas that still have grass, man, you're back there in some pretty hard flowing creeks. Well, we've had enough rain. That water's pretty dirtied up back there. And I've been throwing a chatterbait, of course, and the best chatterbait in the dirty water has been a 3/8 ounce black and blue chatterbait with a black and blue live magic shad. That's the bait I've been throwing by far the most. Now I'm fishing this bait painstakingly slow, just so slow, almost letting it get in the grass and then easing it out of the grass the best I can on that 7.5 medium heavy rod that I like to use. The other bait that I'm using around that grass and around shallow cover in general, when I'm fishing shallow, I'm throwing a Wacky Worm. Old Wacky Rig Trick Worm, great bait right there. Time-tested, bass fish approved, whatever you want to call it. But that's kind of my two-pronged approach to the shallow fish. The grass fish is a Wacky Worm when it slows down, a Wacky Worm when it's real calm, and a chatterbait most of the time. Now, if I find a fish, if I find an area where I get multiple bites on a chatterbait, I'm throwing that Wacky Worm in there before I leave. So if I pull into a grass flat, I get 1 or 2, 3 or 4 bites in there. Before I leave, I'm going to fish real thorough with that Wacky Worm. One thing you guys need to do is you need to make sure when you get a bite in an area, they're not really alone right now. They're grouping up. They're staging. This is pre-spawn staging fishing is what's going on in Texas right now. And so these fish are not alone. So if you do get a bite, you need to be really thorough. You need to spend some time in that area. I can't express to you how slow you need to fish at times. It's really slow. and be methodical with it, and maybe try a different bait, try a different combination. So from that, let's move on to really my favorite deal right now. It's probably been my best deal this week, is the Creek Channel Bend jig deal. And we're going to talk about a couple variances on that. The bread and butter for me this time of year is going to be a 1/2 ounce black and blue jig. And you know, while I did say that the areas that are holding grass that got a lot of flow, they muddied up pretty bad. They got pretty dirty water in them. A lot of the Creek Channel Bend areas that I'm fishing that aren't just super far into the back of the creek, man, they actually, the water's not too, it's pretty good clarity for Lake Fork. It's really not anything out of the normal. So regular black and blue jig with a black stroker crawl has been my mainstay, and that usually is. That being said, we do have more rain forecasted. So some of that dirty water from the back of the creek is going to get pushed further down. When that happens, you need to be open to changing colors a little bit. And I'm going to show you guys something it's a little bit special to me. It's something that's been really successful for me. I'm going to pull this jig. I just got, yes, somebody said earlier, said I got a 6 cents box. That is a 6 cents box right there. It's got jigs and jig trailers. That's all that's in it. The whole box. This big of jigs and jig trailers. All you can see is the trailer packages on top. I'm about to spill them. We'll pull the trailer packages out and show y'all some jigs. Just so y'all know, if it's January and you start getting low on jigs, that's how you order jigs, folks at home, right there. Just buy the bucket loads of them. All right, so this is a 1/2 ounce Cajun crawl color. Yes, they restocked jigs this last week. This color was out of stock for a long time, and the only reason you haven't seen me throwing this color a lot is because it's been out of stock. Cajun crawl, right? That's right. I actually got a color right for once. Cajun crawl. Let's pull this out of the box because I do change a couple things on this. Yeah, you guys hear me talk about fishing a black and blue jig religiously on this channel, and I believe in it. You know I believe in it wholeheartedly. But there's a little trick about having some orange on the belly of your jig. And if you look at old Cajun crawl, it comes and it's just a black with blue flake jig, which is great. But then it's got orange and chartreuse on the belly. Well, I don't want that chartreuse in there, so that's an easy problem to solve. And I'm going to show y'all real quick how easy it is to solve. We're going to grab them chartreuse strands, and we're going to pull them out. And they'll pop your thumb when they pop out of there, so you just can't be a little sissy girl about it. You just got to go on and pull. Oh, did I offend a liberal? 10 seconds in liberal tears. Sometimes a man needs to be masculine and be a man. 10 seconds in liberal tears. Go cry about it, liberals. And one more thing. Donald Trump is still your president. I love trolling liberals. It's so easy. That's the problem. It's so easy. This one strand is hiding from me under some of my orange, and we can't be plucking out none of my orange. All right, so chartreuse strands are gone, right? Just like that. That's something you can do in your boat. Real simple. So now I got a black and blue jig with some orange highlight on the bottom. Just how I like it. Perfect amount of strands in it. I'm going to go ahead and trim the skirt the way that I prefer. Some people probably prefer longer skirts in the wintertime or whenever. I like my jigs to be nice and compact, especially in the wintertime. So we're going to trim the skirt right there by the bend of the hook. Hopefully y'all can see that. Almost dead even with the bend of the hook. Now, a lot of your black and blue jigs are going to come like this, with black strands mixed with blue strands in the skirt itself. This one doesn't have any bright blue strands in the skirt, so I want a little, when I use Cajun crawl, I want a little more blue to it, right? So what do? I go get the, what color do they call this? They call this color backwater blues, but basically it's electric blue, sapphire blue. I've heard it called all of the above, but 6 Cents calls it backwater blues, and it's a stroker crawl, of course, because that's my favorite jig trailer. And it looks like that right there out of the package. We're going to go ahead and detach these little crawls right here because they come attached to their arms, come attached to each other. Anyway, electric blue, backwater blue, and I trim, and I know how much to trim. Normally I would tell you to measure it up where the bend of the hook comes out right here at the top of the appendages. I know I've been rigging so many jigs this week, I know exactly where to cut it. So we're going to go ahead and cut that on down. We're going to flip this jig upside down and thread this trailer on here, and we're fixing to have a bad mamma jamma go-getter. Get it on there nice and straight. Bring the hook point out right at the appendages, just like we talk about. Let the skirt fall down over. Ooh, the skirt's a little one-sided. Sometimes you get these jigs, oh, skirts will be a little one-sided. We'll fix that. Ain't no problem. Ain't no big deal. Ain't no step for a stepper, as they say. Anyway, now I got me a black and blue with some orange on the belly. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know exactly what it is, but that little orange on the belly will get you bit a little more often in East Texas. Y'all check that out. 1/2 ounce Cajun neon, pluck the chartreuse out, put your electric back, excuse me, I choked on it, I said it so wrong. Your backwater blue, stroke or crawl on there and get after their butts. That's a fish catcher right there. And it don't matter how dirty the water gets, you'll catch them on that. But it also works pretty good when the water's not that dirty. It's just a great wintertime color. I'm so glad they got that color back in stock over there at the 6, as some people say. They call it the 6. I feel like I'm too old to say that. My pro staff manager that I deal with, the guy I communicate with at 6 cents the most, he is always calling it the 6. And I just feel, I'm gonna be honest, I feel weird about that. Like, I feel like that kind of talk, that kind of lingo has passed me by. Let's have a moment for a second, folks at home. Why don't we have a moment? You know, I'm really getting to that age and that stage of life where I'm starting to feel like my kids probably look at me the way that I looked at what I consider to be old people when I was a kid. Like, this music that comes out now, I don't really like it. These TV shows that come out now freaking suck. Like, suck. Like, I like to watch documentaries and like sports. I like to watch sports, documentaries, and news that's not fake, which is hard to find, real hard to find. I'm just getting old. I'm just getting old, folks at home. I've got to face it. I'm just getting old. I'm that grumpy old guy that gripes about everything new and young. That's who I'm becoming. And you know what? I think it's real important in life to be yourself. Unless you can be Gus from Lonesome Dove, then be Gus. But other than that, be yourself. Yeah. Some of these younger guys that are watching right now don't even know who Gus from Lonesome Dove is. And all I can say is your parents raised you wrong. They failed you. They failed you. Oh, one more little thing I need to tell you about on the jigs. So, just like we talked about with the chatterbait going through there and then switching up with a wacky worm and being real methodical, when you find a creek bend that you get a bite in, you need to switch your jig up. And a lot of times, it's the size. Switch it up. So have a 1/2 ounce, have a 3/4 ounce, and have a 3/8 ounce tied on. And that 1/2 ounce is your mainstay. That's the one you can really trust the most, I feel like. But man, there sure is times when that 3/4 ounce will get more bites. Today it didn't. Today the 1/2 ounce one wanted to bite. But like yesterday, I threw in there and I got a bite on the 1/2 ounce, and I threw back in there and I got another bite and I missed it. Then I went like 2 or 3 casts without a bite. Then I picked the 3/4 ounce up and I got a bite. And then I got a second bite in a row. And then like a couple casts later, I got another bite. And they were really wanting to bite that 3/4 ounce better. So just changing size and even sometimes color. Like that 3/4 ounce jig I was throwing yesterday was a green and brown jig with a green pumpkin trailer. So having something you can do to change your jig presentation just a little bit might, the fall rate, exactly. The fall rate on the heavier jig may key in the bite a little bit better one day from the next. So have a little variance in your jigs. Have something you can follow your first bite up with and try to trigger another bite if you don't get it on your original bait you're throwing. That's kind of what I mean about when I say you got to be thorough and you got to be methodical. Like, you got to go through that area and give those fish every opportunity. Once you find an area that's holding fish, when they're grouped up in the pre-spawn and they're lethargic and they don't want to bite, once you find a fish that's willing to bite, there's more in there. You just have to be very, very creative sometimes and very methodical and thorough to get those fish to bite. All right. I guess that's the end of me rattling about baits and being old and whatever else. I'll drink to that. Texas Air Gunner says, I just never think of those tiny details when I'm fishing. You know, I think a lot of us miss the boat on those tiny details, and it's why we're not fishing on tour. On tour. That's right. Those guys always think of that stuff. What area of Lake Fork do you fish? Man, it's a 27,000 acre lake. I fish it all, Jack. I mean, today I fished from Lake Fork Marina area all the way up to the northeast side and all kinds of areas all in between. Like, that's just today. And we were really, really restricted about where we could fish today because the wind was blowing so freaking hard. And I still covered that much of Lake Fork today. Lake Fork's just not that big of a lake. I fish all of it. This is in Alba, Texas. Lake Fork is in Alba, Texas. It's surrounded. It's Alba on the south side, Emory on the west side, Quitman on the east side, and Yantis on the north side. Our jig bites coming on the fall or the drag, not on the initial fall. I've had none on the initial fall. So I guess it would technically be on the drag, but it's also on the fall in a way. Let me explain that to you. So these creek channel bends have these stumps on them, and they have root systems at the base of these stumps that are exposed from the water that used to rush through the creeks before we had a lake. And I'm throwing that jig beside these trees and getting it down in those root systems, and that root system will be sitting here like this, and that jig will come here and go tunk, tunk. It'll hang up a little bit, tunk, tunk. So what happens is, right as you catch on a root, and sometimes it'll fall down into the channel when it does that. So as you catch the jig on the root, you pull it. When it releases and pops free, I'm pointing my rod down so that it'll drop straight down into the roots. And a lot of times on that little fall off the root system, you'll feel pop, pop, and they hit it. That's when they hit it. And a lot of times it's not a mushy jig bite. Like, they're popping it, knocking slack in it. And then sometimes it is a mushy bite, but a lot of your bites in that root system deal with such a reaction when it starts falling down into their home, they actually smack it really good for you. How would you attack a river-based lake with limited 2D sonar this time of year? I would do a lot of map study, and I would try to find channel bends. I would try to find channel bends, and I would try to find backwater areas, and within those backwater areas, find the creek channel or drain, the low spot that runs to the main channel. Those junctions from the main channel, those drains are going to be key for you. Now, you can find that on map study, and you can verify it even with simple 2D sonar. You can verify the low spots and start marking waypoints and map it out. It's going to take a little extra work. You're going to have to work a little harder because your equipment's not up to date, but you can do it. You can 1,000% do it, no doubt about it. And that I would look for that type of stuff. And then, of course, I would get in the backwaters, the oxbows of a river system, and I would look for vegetation and fish the chatterbait. I mean, these patterns that we're talking about can apply just about anywhere that you want to go. Texas Parks and Wildlife should not issue a fishing license to anyone who doesn't know who Gus is from Lonesome Dove. I could not agree more with anything. I couldn't agree more with anything that anybody's ever said on this channel. That's the best thing that's ever been stated on this channel. That's facts, Jax. Any tips for night fishing? I know it's not the best time of year for it, but it's the one thing I can't figure out at all. Well, this isn't really a time, and I'm a bad person to ask about night fishing because I just don't really do it. You know, I used to fish some night tournaments before I started guiding. Man, I haven't night fished since I started guiding, and that was 2015. So I think I may have fished some night tournaments that first year I was part-time guiding. But, yeah, I'm a bad person to ask about night fishing. I don't, you know, on Fork, it's all about these green lights now and the dock lights, the white lights, you know. That's all I ever hear guys talk about is these lights. It's about lights, you know. For me, when I was night fishing, I concentrated on areas that transitioned from shallow to deep really quickly so that fish that were holding deeper during the daytime that might transition shallower during the nighttime, they would have easy access to those type of areas. And that did pretty good for me. And, of course, I concentrated on lights, too. There wasn't near as many green lights back then, but there was a lot of dock lights and stuff that I concentrated on. But as far as baits and stuff to throw, man, just to me, a little bit bigger, bulkier baits and vibration. If I'm going to fish slow with a jig or a worm, I want it to be a 10-inch worm with ribs on the side and a big ribbon tail. If I'm going to fish a jig, I want it to be a big full-body jig with rattles and a big flapping crawl type of trailer. Just bulk and vibration seem to be the two key components. Spinner baits, big black spinner baits with big thumper blades are good at night. You know, just there you go. That's my best night tips, and I really don't know a whole lot about night fishing. Do you think they need to start regulating how many tournaments a lake can have per month/year? That's a very, very, very good question, and I don't know that it's one that anybody knows the right answer to. Um, I don't know how you go about doing that in a good way. I'm gonna say no. For me, no, just because I'm anti-regulation, and here's how I feel about it. If you have too many tournaments on the lake, and the lake gets overfished, and the lake starts fishing too tough, less people are going to show up to your tournaments. I mean, Rayburn and Fort draw more boats for tournaments than Lake Tyler does. They just do. I mean, or Lake Conroe even, you know. Lake Conroe may be a little bit of an exception because it's got so many people living around it. It's almost a city lake at this point, even though it was like outside of Conroe was country folk town when I was growing up down there. Now it's basically a neighborhood lake and city all around it. But yeah, I mean, you know, Lake Fort's going to draw more boats than Lake Limestone will. And Lake Limestone's not a bad lake. But Sam Rayburn and Falcon, even though it's way out of the way, these lakes that are known to fish better are going to draw more boats than the lakes that aren't known to fish better. So if the lake just starts fishing tough because there's too many tournaments, then it's going to make people stop coming. And then it's going to balance itself out and the lake's going to recover. You know, that's one thing about freedom. Things have a way of working themselves out if you don't restrict them. I'm not a real big fan of restrictions of any kind, honestly. I think everybody ought to be free. I think the only thing that really ought to be a crime is you harming someone else or taking someone else's property. If you're not harming other people and you're not harming other people's property or taking it, you do you, boo-boo, and I'm going to do me. Now, you're going to have to pay the consequences. I don't want to hear no crime when you monkey your whole life up, but that's just my kind of thought process. So regulating numbers of tournaments, it's a hard pill for me to swallow to go on board with any kind of regulation. I say that, and then I'm like, yeah, but we need to make sure these Louisiana boys don't keep 85 fish a day. So maybe there's a few regulations that are okay. I don't know. Great tribute to Mark, but thank you so much. I appreciate that. That was something I really, really, really needed to do. I'm just getting into bass fishing. What should I use? Bass fishing lures, fool. No, I'm just kidding. You know, weightless plastics are really good for beginners to use because, you know, they're just kind of throw them out there and hop them around and you get bites. And then good winding baits that are efficient and easy to fish through cover. Weedless swim baits, spinner baits, chatter baits. Those are great baits for beginners because they're fairly snag free and you just throw them out there and reel them and you catch fish on them. So being a beginner, a Texas rig, which looks like this right here. You got a weight and a hook and a piece of plastic on it. And then, of course, weightless plastics as well, which is just that, but with like a stick bait, a Cinco or a trick worm or whatever on it. And then those other moving baits that I mentioned. To me, those are like great beginner baits. And, of course, there's different things for different situations. That's the thing with bass fishing. There's all these different puzzle pieces we put together to find out what they're going to bite the best on any given day. But just generally speaking, I think that's a good start for a true, really, really new beginner. There you go. Texas Air Gunner kind of mimicked what I said. Chatterbait and Texas rigs. Rod Nichols says, I looked at him crazy when I asked if we were going to fillet the fish. Yeah, no, we ain't filleting no bass on my boat, Jack. No, sir. No, sir. Tips on Martin Creek. Yeah, let's talk power play lakes since we didn't really talk about that earlier. So let's go into that a little bit. Thank you for reminding me of that. Martin Creek's had a little bit, for me, had a little bit of a swim bait bite going on. You probably also swim jig, catch probably the same fish on swim jig, but swim bait seemed to do better when I was there. Just fishing. God dang my nose. Changing weather and crazy winds. Monkeys up my allergies, boys. Anyways, just really fishing those really slow rolling them through old pad fields, old pad stems. You know, all the pads are kind of died down now. It's just stems, and there's some hydrilla mixed in there with them in some areas. And That's really what I'm doing. I'm finding the areas that have hydrilla mixed in with pad stems, where fish, the pad stems kind of indicate you're probably going to have a hard bottom. And if I can find that with some hydrilla mixed in, I know it's holding a lot of fish. And I'm just really slow rolling weedless swim baits and swim jigs through those areas. And Wacky Worm's also catching them there too. You can catch a few on Wacky Worm there as well. And then of course a frog. A frog was playing really well at Martin Creek. Now that the water's come up a little bit and those pads have all kind of died all the way down, that frog's really not playing as much anymore. But that's kind of the key deal now. Here pretty soon, some of those fish are going to start gathering back up on that main lake grass. And then that punch and bite, and maybe even a lipless crankbait bite outside of that grass, but a punch and bite on the mat on that main lake grass on Martin Creek, that's going to come back into play here pretty quick, I would imagine. Brandy Branch is going to be, if you got wind, on Brandy Branch, that water's so clear. If you've got wind, fish the wind. And fish the outside grass edges with swim baits and chatter baits. And if you don't have wind, you better have a good finesse game. You better be a Wacky Worm throwing some buck. And you better be good at sight fishing from a distance. Because you get anywhere near them fishing like clear water, they get pretty skittish. So you got to be able to pitch from a long ways off. And you got to be able to see them from a long ways off and be a really good sight fisherman. But there are fish spawning out there. And you can do the sight fishing deal if you don't have wind. Yeah, that's kind of it for Brandy Branch. Maybe throw a frog around some matted vegetation. Might not be a bad idea there too. That would be certainly something I would try. And if you can catch them, if you can get them to bite that frog around that matted vegetation on Brandy Branch, you're going to catch big ones, like good ones. You're going to have a good bag if you get 5 frog bites at the end of the day. Welsh is crowded. Fish spawning out there. There's some fish pulling back out. There's a swim bait bite. There's a flipping bite. And there's a bed fishing deal that you can either sight fish them and look at them or throw weightless plastics at them. And that's kind of what's going on at Welsh. So you can pull out on the outside edge of the grass, especially the stuff that's main lake oriented. And if you move around enough, you can find a group of fish and you can catch them on a swim bait pretty good right now. And even bigger swim baits too, not just little ones. And an A-rig, an Alabama rig outside the grass. Same area you catch them big swim bait fish, Alabama rig usually is the best bait for those fish on Welsh. You can punch on the right day, right conditions, sunshine, a lot of sunshine. You need a lot of sunshine for that bite, but you can punch some of that deeper grass. And even if it's not growing all the way to the top, it's just topping out a foot or two below the surface. That's my favorite way to punch. You can still punch that and catch great bags at Welsh. You guys have seen us do that on videos in years past out there. And then, of course, the bedfish. You can go around to the pockets, the protected pockets, get away from the wind, and you can look at them on a bed and catch them a little bit if you're good at it. You got to be, again, it's real clear water there too, so you got to be really, really stealthy, keep your distance, and a Wacky Worm. A Wacky Worm, always once you get past the new year and you start getting towards the end of January, where we're heading towards right now, from now until March, a Wacky Worm will be a major, major, major player on Lake Welsh. Do I know Brenda Walker? I sure don't. Not by names, but I'm bad with names. I might know him face to face. Any news on Monticello? No news on Monticello. When's the dang Mega Live coming out? They say March, but I can't wait that long. March was the last word I got on that. Anybody catching fish using forward-facing sonar right now that are suspended? Yeah. I mean, I think there are some guys doing it. I imagine they're using Alabama rigs and jerkbaits. Yep. I know there are some guys doing it for a fact that are using A-rigs. A-rig shows up so great on that live scope, and man, when you can see them suspended by a tree and you can steer that Alabama rig around that tree and roll it by, that's a hard thing for a fish to resist when it gets close to them. So A-rig and a live scope is a pretty deadly combination. I'm trying. Do any of y'all have an active target yet? Can somebody put me in the boat with Lowrance active target? I really want to see it for myself in person before I pull the trigger on something. Man, I know I missed a bunch of comments and questions earlier in the stream. If you guys have questions that I missed, please ask them again. I will do my best to answer them. What baits should we load up for pre-spawn and spawn season? Well, pre-spawn is kind of what I'm talking about tonight, man. You know, like jigs and chatterbaits and lipless crankbaits and, you know, that kind of stuff is jerk baits And Carolina rig baits, I like this hog wallow on a Carolina rig. I think it's a really good Carolina rig bait, especially this time of year in the winter. That's your pre-spawn stuff. Spawn is, oh God, you're opening the gamut. You're talking about frogs. You talking about wacky worm, trick worm style worms, the divine shaky head worm, clout, stick baits. You're talking about Texas rig critters. The good news is you can use your stroker crawl that you use for your jig trailer. You can use that. That's a great bed fishing bait. I caught all my bed fish on that last year, every single one of them on that stroker crawl last year. What else are we doing in the spring? Swim baits. Yep, that swim bait deal happens in a big way come spring. In a big way. So, golly, dude, spring, you can load up on everything. Everything. Square bills. Because the shad spawn happens in the spring. We're going to need a square bill. We're going to need some top waters. Hey now. We're going to need a lot of gear in the spring, boys. Hog wallow going to take the place of brush hog? For me, probably so. Yeah, for me, probably so. Will the new big cent shaky head worm replace the Magnum crawler? Haven't had the chance to go fishing with a bigger 6 cent shaky worm, but have fished Magnum crawler a lot. For me, no. Nothing that I've seen is even, no. The big perm. Look, y'all see that? I know y'all can't read it from here, but that license plate right there, the customer gave me that. It says big worm. Big perm, you mean big worm? Yeah, no, the Magnum crawler from Smash Tech, I'm not replacing that anytime soon. Anytime soon. That deal is spot on. Spot on. I don't have any plans on letting that one go anytime. One that is another good big shaky head worm, though, is that ridge worm. It's different. It's a big, long ribbon tail with kind of a funky, it's a goofy looking thing. That sucker catches their butts now. Big perm catches 40-pound bags. It sure will. It sure will. Yeah, the key to big perm, the key to the Magnum crawler for Smash Tech is no salt. To me, that's the key. It gives it a better action on bottom, makes it stand up. That's the key. All the other big straight tail worms that I know of have salt in them. And I like it with no salt down there in deep water. Keep that tail standing up, waving in the wind current down there in deep water. Fish it real slow. And when one bites, you better swing for the fences because it probably ain't going to be real small. Dang, nose is acting up tonight, boy. It must be pre-spawn. Listen, this is, you guys know why I fish. This is why because I'm so good at fishing. Let me tell you, I'm so good. In case, watch Monday. You'll see exactly how awesome I am fishing. Anyway, one of the things that helped me as a fisherman is I got a pre-spawn detector right here. Because when them plants start changing, it might be cold outside. I know it's cold outside, but I bet you there's a bud on a tree somewhere. This thing right here don't lie. And when this thing starts acting up, it's pre-spawn, Jack. Yeah, somebody said got to use that 6 cent shaky head. That 6 cent shaky head is hands down the best deep water shaky head I've ever seen. The big one, and I use the smaller ones in shallow water too. It's my favorite shaky head I've ever seen. Man, I got like a bone bruise on my elbow, and every time I touch my elbow on my knee, I'm about to start crying in front of y'all, and I don't want to cry in front of y'all. Well, Carolina rig with Smash Tech bubble fry work right now. Man, that's more of a summertime gig for me. I really like the appendage style baits this time of year, like a lizard, like a hog wallow, like a brush hog. But I love that bubble fry in the heat of summer. I really do, on a Carolina rig. Big John says, does anybody else even make a shaky head? Not as good as that one, they don't. Been hearing some pros talk about throwing chatterbaits on mono. What's your take? I see the reason. I see the reasoning. Because, that a lot of the chatterbait bites that you get are just load up bite. You never feel them bite. It just starts loading up. And having that extra stretch in that mono is going to keep you from jerking on them too much. Or absorb the shock when you do jerk on them too much. Man, I go the opposite way. I actually fish it on 20-pound fluorocarbon and a pretty bigger, like a 7.5 medium heavy rod. And I just make sure that I ease into the hook set, because that bigger setup makes it so easy for me to finesse that bait through the grass. In fact, my customer today had a much lighter action rod with lighter line, and I switched him over and put him on mine, and he goes, man, that's like a whole different ball game. You can fish that chatterbait so much slower and feather it through that grass so much easier at a slower speed in the wintertime. That for me, I fish chatterbait a lot now. I've caught some really good fish on chatterbait, and I've caught a bunch of them. And that's really how I like to fish it, on bigger gear than what just about anybody else will recommend. And I just make sure that I ease into them on the hook set. And if you load up on the hook set and you don't go to jerking on them, you don't lose hardly any, really. I really don't hardly ever lose a chatterbait fish. I'll lose one on camera next week, guaranteed. Guaranteed I'll lose one on camera next week because I said that. But I really hardly ever lose chatterbait fish. 7.5 medium heavy, that's right. 7.5 medium heavy is my preferred chatterbait rod. Why not black and blue on the Wacky Worm? Well, that watermelon red one's tied on because I was pulling into a cleaner water area at the end of the day today. I'm throwing some off-the-wall colors. I'm throwing their Nirvana Divine Shaky Head Worm, which is green pumpkin with black and blue flake on one side, green pumpkin on the other. I'm throwing Plum Fleck, which is essentially a black and blue. It's like a dark purple and blue. So I am throwing those darker colors in that dirt when I'm fishing that dirtier water. I am. I love these questions. Dude, I can't predict the future. What baits would you recommend the first week of March? I don't know. Let me see the weather report the 2 weeks before and the week of, and then I can tell you, because the first week of March, we could have spawn going. We could have no spawn going. We could have a warm front and fish are up on the bank chewing everything you throw at them. And we could have a cold front and they don't want to hardly bite nothing, and you better twitch a jerkbait real slow. I honestly have, there's no way to know without seeing the current conditions, brother. There's just not. Oh, Texas Air Gunner says he's got his PB on the chatterbait. Dude, I'm telling you, I've caught some big old heads on the chatterbait. Ain't no doubt. And I've had a lot of customers catch really big fish on chatterbait. Really big fish. Uh-oh, we got a troll. Ducky duck, what's that say? Ducky duck lup. That's got to be a troll. Got to be a troll. When does spawn usually hit on fork? Well, contrary to popular belief, it usually starts about Valentine's Day, if not sooner. But that's not the majority of the lake. That's only certain small areas of the lake that warm up the fastest. And it's a small percentage of the fish even within those areas. So it's not a lot. But a few will start spawning in February, in early February. Mid-February at the latest. Now, when you're going to start seeing fish spawn from one end of the lake to the other, it's going to be mid to late March, depending on the weather. And it's going to last until early to mid-May, maybe late May, depending on the weather. So really, yeah, that's it. March, April, May is kind of your spawn months on fork, but really April is they're spawning all over the lake every single day of April. Any tips for fly fishermen at fork? Upsize your hooks and your lines, boys. I've never fly fished. I would not even know where to begin. I would say that, yeah, I don't know what you normally use for fly gear, but you might want to beef it up a little bit, because even as bass fishermen, when you come to Lake Fork, you beef up your gear a little bit. And it's not even that the fish are so big, it's that you got to get them through stumps and brush and flooded bushes and grass and lily pad stems and floating hyacinth and pondweed. I mean, they just got so much junk to tie you up in that you need some stronger gear to control them a little bit. What creeks still have grass on fork now? Well, I ain't going to do all the work for you now, dog. And I do have a Fish Life app. You can subscribe to the Fish Life app Lake Fork Premium Package, and there's some waypoints around some grass that help you find it. Just saying. This ought to be a good comment. Show my wife that video of you almost jumping out of the boat when you saw that snake on that tree. Man, we had a good laugh. I can appreciate that y'all after that. Here's the deal. I didn't see that snake on the tree. He got on the tree after I ran. I was bed fishing for a fish to my left, and I'm locked in on it. It was like a 9-pounder. It was a big one. And I hear a splash on the right side of my boat. And I turn around and look, and that snake has his head up on my rub rail trying to come in my boat. So, just so you know, I don't freak out when snakes are on trees. I do freak out, but not that bad. But that sucker was trying to come get me, dude. Like he was climbing up on the front deck. I had to go, son, like I was about to die. And I almost did die. I about had a heart attack. Like literally my chest was pounding. I'm scared of snakes. I'm straight up deathly scared of snakes. I'll tell you this. Those that know me know that I love sight fishing. I love it. And if you give me a big fish that's locked on a bed, I'm in, man. And I go to a whole different zone, whole different world. You can tell me the world's falling down around me. I ain't going to pay no attention. When that snake tried to get in my boat, I left the entire cove. I left the entire area, dude. I left the whole county. I was gone. I need to go to a whole other segment of the lake to get over that one. I'm deathly afraid of snakes. Snake almost had a $90,000. He sure did. He almost had him a brand new boat. Best days to fish around the full moon, the 3 days after it. The 3 days after the full moon, if you're bed fishing, if you want to fish on beds, the 3 days after the full moon are the best days. Every year, and I've already got this day booked this year, so don't worry. I think it's already booked for 2022, actually. I know I had somebody asking about it. If you've got a full moon between March 15 and April 15, which there'll always be a full moon somewhere in there. So whatever full moon falls between March 15 and April 15, the third day after that full moon is the best sight fishing day of the year, every single year. Every single year. Biggest video of all time. I know. The stupid video of me running from a snake is my most watched video I've ever made by a lot. Like, by a lot. I've caught all these giant fish on camera, and then my most watched video is me running from a snake squealing like a little girl. What time am I going to be at the marina for the seminar tomorrow? I might show up there around 5 to eat beforehand. I might come up there and eat beforehand around 5. No later than 5:30, I wouldn't think. I'll be there by 5:30. Do got a free seminar tomorrow at Lake Fork Marina. If you guys are in the area, come see us at Lake Fork Marina, 6 p.m. Free seminar. We got a special guest coming. He's been before, but it's been a long time since he's been to one, and we are really, really happy to have him back at one. So, I feel you on the snake thing, and then mosquitoes are the reason I don't like night fish. They're one of the reasons that I don't like to night fish is mosquitoes, no doubt. I hate summertime night fishing. Them dang mosquitoes will carry you off the boat if you ain't careful in Texas. Why 3 days after a full moon? So here's why. So when the full moon happens, big fish are kind of sitting in the mouth of these pockets, sitting out in the deeper water within these pockets, whatever. When the full moon happens, it pulls them in and makes them start looking for a partner. Makes them want to get on a bed, like actually get on a bed. And for whatever reason, 3 days after that full moon is when the most amount of females will be locked on a bed. You'll see more pairs with bigger females 3 days after the moon cycle than you will any other day. That doesn't mean you can't find a 10-pounder 8 days after the full moon. We just go sight fishing every day that time of year, and there's always fish to be caught and big fish to be caught. But the day where it's like, holy crap, there's big females everywhere I look, and they're locked. Like, that's 3 days after the full moon every year. Every year. I'll tell you what, so 2019, 3 days after the full moon, I had one customer. He could flip. He could pitch and flip and do his thing. We have 40 pounds and 12 ounces on our best 5, all sight fishing. And our second bag behind that was probably about 20 to 25 pounds on our best 5. Like, we freaking caught. Like, if we'd have had like an MLF style that day, it'd have been like, I don't know what it would have been, like 100 and something pounds of bedfish. It was insane. 2020, 3 days after the full moon, had a little group trip. And I had a dad who fishes, but he's not like a competitive, tournament active, tournament fishing, but he does fish. But I spend a lot more time on beds with his son, who's very, very novice. Really, be honest with you, didn't really know how to set the hook right, didn't pitch and flip. Like, he was very, very novice. We still caught like 30 pounds on our best 5. A dude that couldn't pitch and couldn't set the hook caught 30 pounds of bedfish on best 5. It's the best day every year. Every year. If I had one bait to throw for the rest of my life, what would it be? 3/8 ounce chatterbait. No doubt. No doubt it'd be a 3/8 ounce chatterbait. I love that bait. I depend on that bait. I trust that bait. I feel like if I commit to that chatterbait, throw it all day, every day, I might not have any days in a whole calendar year where I zero. I will catch something on that bait every day. And there'll be a lot of days where I catch a lot of good fish and big bags. I just really believe in it. One bait 3 days after the full moon. Well, I'm just sight fishing. That's a sight fishing deal. Now, that 3 days after the full moon ain't the best day to just go fishing if you ain't into looking at them on a bed. If I'm looking at them on a bed, probably just throw, not necessarily this color, but here you go. Green pumpkin burst stroker crawl on a 1/4 ounce Texas rig. Best time to fish creeks that are dammed up to create a large pond that flows. Best time to fish creeks that are dammed up to create a larger pond. You're talking about like a natural creek that just like a beaver dam's on it, so it creates a little bit of a larger pond, but water still flows through it. I think that's what you're asking. Man, I actually had one of those in property we lived at when I was about 14 years old, 15 years old. We had one of those at our back property line, and I used to whack them in that thing, dude. I don't know, man. To me, it didn't matter. Like, I just caught them in there every day. We just went down there and threw a spinnerbait and a worm and caught them every single day. It was crazy. It was crazy. That was a good little hole in Brenham, Texas. We lived in Brenham, Texas 1 year when I was a kid. And we had that sucker back. We had a pond on our property, a small pond. And we had that creek that was dammed up on the ranch behind us. And we just kind of hopped the fence and fished that creek. You know, like we had running rights to fish that creek, which meant if somebody caught us, we had the right to run away when they caught us. But we fished that creek a lot. And it was dammed up by a beaver dam. We smoked them in there. And my stepbrother almost got eaten by a snake that was as big as he was. A snake went between his legs. We walking through the tall grass in the pasture, and a snake went between his legs that I swear to you was as long as he was tall at 14. I promise you it was. It was the hugest snake I've ever seen. And it went right between his legs as we were walking through the tall grass, and and we've already had my discussion about snakes. I had a heart attack at 14, 15 years old. When is my next event at Lake Fork Marina? Tomorrow night, 6 p.m. We'll be there. Come join us. So I don't recommend half-ounce chatterbaits. I recommend half-ounce chatterbaits, especially in the summertime when I'm wanting to fish them faster. And I actually want them to get more bogged down in the grass so I can rip them more violently because they bite it better that way in the summer. This time of year, when I'm creeping a chatterbait, it's 3/8 for sure. And the majority of the time that I throw a chatterbait, it is 3/8. That half-ounce deal is really a summertime deal for me. And then if I have deeper grass, I'll even go up to the heavier chatterbaits, the 3/4 ounce. See you later, Seabach. Appreciate you. What time tomorrow night? 6 p.m. 6 p.m. tomorrow night. When would you throw a baby bass color bait like a fluke or a swim bait? The fall. Baby bass, to me, the color baby bass shines the best in the fall. And what happens is a lot of the bass fry that comes out as these microscopic little fry when they hatch, by the time you get towards like right at I'm talking about early fall, like right at the end of summer, early fall, well now those bass fry are getting big enough to really be something for a bigger bass to target and eat. And Mama done forgot those are her babies, and if they are, she don't know it. And at that time, a bass is just a bass, and he's an opportunistic eater that eats anything that swims through the water column. They'll eat birds, they'll eat rats, they'll eat mice, they'll eat ducks, they'll eat frogs, they'll eat crawfish, they'll eat night crawlers, they'll eat shad, they'll eat brim, they'll eat crappie, they'll eat everything that moves in the water they will eat. That's why bass fishing is a thing. I mean, these fish bite metal and plastic every day. They are such aggressive eaters that they try to literally eat metal and plastic every day of their life. Otherwise, none of us would be here. So they'll eat everything. So they definitely tee off on those schools of those young of the year bass in the fall, and that's the best time of year to me to throw baby bass color baits. What size live magic shad you like on the 3/8-ounce chatterbait? Man, I've been throwing the 3.5 a lot here lately just because it's been such tough conditions. But I will tell you, the second we start warm trending a little bit and start getting a little bit more of an aggressive biting fish, I'm going to go to the 4.5-inch live magic shad, and I'm going to trim it off right at the little notch. Now, this is a 3.5, but I'm going to show you the notch I'm talking about. See that notch? See that little notch right there? The 4.5-inch, I trim it off right at that notch. And it just fits a 3/8-ounce chatterbait perfectly with the skirt the way it comes out of the package. You thread that sucker on there with that notch cut off, and it's ready to go. It's those short, fat snakes, the one that gets you on the water, dude. Don't eat, dude. You guys I'm gonna be having nightmares. Can we stop talking about snakes? I'm already I feel like there's one behind me. Is there one? I'd make sure there wasn't one behind me real quick. Will the 22 kill tournament take place again? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, 22 kill benefit will take place. It's our Forever Grateful tournament because we want to give back to those that have served this country and sacrificed so much. So yeah, it benefits the 22 kill organization, which does a lot for our first responders and military veterans. And yeah, we will absolutely have that tournament. It'll be July 4th weekend. That's when we're going to try to do it every year. Any plans to fish some other lakes this year? Richland Chambers or Ray Roberts? Yes. I plan to fish Lake Palestine very soon ahead of the Red Crest. So what I want to do is, we got so many of these big events happening, big tour events happening in East Texas, Northeast Texas, that I want to try and give you guys a look at these lakes before the tournament happens. And so, and we're trying to cover, maybe go cover some of the tournament action like we did when they were at Lake Fork in the fall. So we will be fishing Lake Palestine here very soon, coming up very soon. You guys will see some videos from Lake Palestine, hopefully. We do want to fish Fork, of course, before that event in April. Maybe get back down to Rayburn before their event down there in March for the MLF. Ray Roberts has got the Classic in June now. So, yeah, ahead of all these events, we do plan to fish these lakes that they're having the big tour events on. So you will see us on Palestine, Sam Rayburn some more for sure, Ray Roberts, and, of course, Fork whenever they're about to come here. Blake Doty, trim that nose, man. I'm telling you, trim that nose at the notch. It's the deal. It's great. It's great. Check the boat, man. Stop it. Y'all stop talking about these dank snakes or I'm going to turn this live stream off. I'm telling y'all. Freaking me out. Texas Air Gunner says the trick is to turn the swim bait upside down on chatterbait. It'll swim right. A swim bait. I don't have any problem with paddle tails swimming right on a chatterbait. Pines any this year? Man, maybe. Got all these plans to go to these other places. I like Pines. I'm fond of Pines, Big John. You know that. We've talked about that before. I love Lake of the Pines. I just don't get out there as much as I should. I've been out there a few times. I just don't get to it near as much as I should. It's a great lake. It's so good. Cedar Creek, I don't think I'll be hitting Cedar Creek. Stop it. Listen, Anthony Carbajal, I can see behind me in the screen I'm looking at, you goober. Stop it. Y'all trying to play with me, dog. Y'all about to get this live stream in, and I'm telling y'all, y'all playing around about these snakes. Like, yo, y'all can tell me that the liberals were outside my garage, which is really freaking scary, but I still wouldn't be near as scared as I would be of a snake. One snake. Y'all can tell me the freaking Taliban was assaulting my house right now, my family would be like, I can handle this, gotta go, and I'd run right to it. Y'all tell me a snake's going to eat my kids, I'm going to be like, sure did love that boy. Like, that's it. That's it. Tupac ain't scared. Well, I am. Ben Edie, text me after the live, not during the live stream because you'll monkey it up, but text me after the live stream and let me know when you're coming, man. We need to link up, if nothing else, have a meal or something, bro. Be good to see you again. What line do you use on that 3/8 ounce chatterbait 1 pound test? 20 pound fluorocarbon. That's how I do Todd. Yeah, Ben knows my boys. He's had dinner at my house. He's met my boys. Yeah, I mean with a snake, yeah. With a snake, yeah. Anything else, I'm gonna destroy it. I'm gonna destroy anything else that tries to mess with my kids. If my kids are getting attacked by snakes, they are screwed. Just so y'all know. I tell them all the time, watch out for snakes. Don't get near them. Don't let a snake bite you. Because if that snake's near you, I ain't coming to help. Not gonna happen. I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding. For the record, since everybody takes things so serious these days, liberals. $0.06 swank this time of year? Yeah. If you've got deeper grass, it's a little bit deeper diving. It's a grass. The swank is a grass machine. I'm telling you, the deal with the swank crankbait. Can I tell some truth? Can I speak some behind the scenes fishing industry truth? Can I? Y'all let me know. Somebody comment. Let me know if I can tell some dirty secrets. Speak. Here, speak. Let's tell some daggum truth. All right. We're about to let the cat out of the bag. I mean, and I know a lot of people already know this. So it's no big deal. It's not like anything crazy or dramatic. It's just a cool behind-the-scenes kind of story. I mean, it's a little, So, I have to take a drink to tell this story. You know what I'm saying? All right. So, Todd Castledine. Raise your hand if you know who Todd Castledine is. We all do. Todd Castledine is this legendary local tournament angler from Sam Rayburn. Him and Russell Cecil won like every Texas team trail event ever the first couple of years they were out. I don't know. It was crazy. They were killing it on Rayburn and Toledo, and they did good on other lakes too, but really on Rayburn, it was like, holy crap, they destroyed everybody. Like, it was just unbelievable their run they went on at Rayburn. Well, there was this old bait. It was called a Strike Pro Bubba crankbait. It's kind of a big, odd-bodied crankbait. Had an L-shaped bill. It's only crankbait. Had an L-shaped bill. Well, this bait got discontinued. It's gone. They don't make no more. And then, boy, rumor has it that Castledine and Russell Cecil went online and like bought all of them, like the world supply or whatever. Well, at that time, Todd Castledine worked with a company called 6 Cents Fishing back then, when he was a Rayburn local before he went out on the tour. He worked with 6 Cents. Not surprising, 6 Cents, that's really home territory for them. They're down there in Willis, really close to Rayburn. And what do you know, lo and behold, on the Bassmaster Opens, and he was on the FLW Tour, or whatever it's called now. I don't even know. It's the FLW Tour, folks. That's what it is. He fishes Bassmaster Opens now, but he was fishing FLW. Anyway, Todd Castledine, now that he's been on tour, doesn't work with 6 Cents anymore. He works with Strike King. I'll bet y'all will never guess what Strike King just came out with here recently. Kind of an odd, big-shaped crankbait with a L-shaped bill. It's funny. It's funny how that works, isn't it? My only question is Ben Milliken going to call out Strike King for knocking off 6 Cents? That's all. I shouldn't have said that. Oh my God, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, I might get fired for that one. I literally might get fired for that one. It is what it is. Listen, I love Ben. Ben's a ton of fun. I'm only picking. Just jokes. Nobody get their feelings hurt. I'm sorry. I really might get fired for that one. I don't know. Oh well. People are that sensitive, I don't want to be around them anyway. It's all good. Yeah, swanks are really good. To answer the question, you need to have a little bit of a gap between the grass and the surface, like, at least a 2, 3, 4 foot gap between the top of the grass and the surface. But when you have that swank, it's like you just reel it and it just comes through it. And by the way, that Strike Pro Bubba is like the deal that won Castledine and Cecil a ton of money on Rayburn, because they had that situations and they were just winding it through that grass, and nobody else was presenting a crankbait like that in that grass. And it was deadly. And it still is. And it's still very, very underutilized. Like, people see that with that L-shaped bill, and I'm like, ooh, what's that? That looks weird. When I first saw it, I was like, ooh, what's that? Then I heard the story of how it came to be. I was like, oh, yeah, let me get some of that. And so, yeah, that's a little industry insider. Strike King's calling it the hybrid. No, it's the Strike Pro Bubba 3.0 is what it is. Ben Eady, Jay Swartz, and Curtis Loden. Don't care. Don't want to know. You must have missed the Facebook Live when it went down for real. I don't give a good dang where that little midget is. And I don't ever want to see him face to face again. That's not a joke. We had so much fun tonight. Then somebody had to ask about a shorter than average fishing guide. Yeah, I know. I did a Facebook live stream and broke down all the real drama, because it seems like all the locals follow us on Facebook. So everybody was asking, so I answered. Big ugly deal, man. Big ugly deal. Deceitful guy. Manipulative guy. Plays both sides of every relationship he's in. Turned out to be just sorry. Very sorry individual. You ain't wrong, Big Ben. You ain't wrong. I like this Anthony Carvajal guy. When he's not telling snake jokes. I like it. Andrew was telling about, who's Andrew, Robert Alexander? Dude, we've been talking a long time now. We've been up on the live stream for a hot minute tonight. MLF coming to Fork this year? No, MLF is not coming to Fork this year, but the Bassmasters is in April. The Elite Series is in April for Texas Fest. Do I know if Fun and Son's having their show? Fun and Son is having their show. They scheduled it for when the Classic was going to be in town at Ray Roberts, because that's really, really close. And then the Classic got moved like the next week after they scheduled it. So I don't know when it's going to be. Maybe they'll move their show again to June. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Because now if they have their show, there won't be any pros there, because you'll have that weekend, you'll have MLF, Bass Pro Tour will be on Rayburn, and Bassmaster Elite Series will be on Pickwick. So none of their pros will be in town for their boat show if they do it that weekend. Robert Alexander, who is Andrew? Hold up, dog. Somebody talking about throwing snakes in my boat? Hold on now. Hold on. Y'all really want me to end this live stream, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know what to think about that. That's not even cool, man. It's not cool. What do you think about winning weight will be for Bassmaster Elite Series in April on Fork? Oh, God. I actually had this conversation with my guy today. We were talking about that. Fork water temp this week is 49 to 50 degrees. Okay. Winning weight for bass in April. You know, again, so much of that spring deal is so dependent on the weather. We were talking about this today, and I was like, man, honestly, in April, like, The only thing that can keep them from breaking the all-time 4-day record, in my opinion, the only thing that will keep them from breaking the all-time 4-day record is just a crazy, which we have had snow in April before. That's happened here before in the past. Something just freakishly cold front at the wrong time for that tournament, or just crazy flooding conditions. Like crazy flooding, not a little bit, like a lot, like where the gates are open, the lake's overfilling, stuff flowing down the lake. Like, other than that, I'm pretty sure that they're fixing to break the all-time 4-day record, which is 130 pounds. I really do think that's going to happen. You put that many fish on beds and that many fish that spawned in March that are gathered up on points hungry, like, you put those guys in that situation, dude, it's like, be some big bags. You'll see a 40-pound bag in that deal, I bet you. You'll probably see a few. D. Smith, now we talking. D. Smith, I like it. Wish I could do what they do and go to Fork and catch a 40-pound bag. They're unbelievable. Listen, those guys are unbelievably good, man. They are unfreaking believably good. It's insane how good they are. So I've had 2 40-pound bags ever on Fork, and I fished it over 1,000 days at this point. I don't know what the number is. It's a lot. And in 2014, they hit it when it was fishing good. Big fish it was a good year for the lake for big fish. We had a lot of big fish in the lake. They were biting good when they got here. And there was, Keith Combs had 110 pounds for 3 days. That's like 38-pound average, dog. Like 37 and a half. And there was multiple 40-pound bags by different guys in that one tournament. Blows my mind. Most of those guys don't fish here all the time. Now, Keith Combs fishes here a little bit. Most of those guys don't fish here all the time. And they just showed up and showed out, man. There's a reason they're the best in the world. I can't play golf with Tiger Woods either. I can't. Like, he's going to beat me. Him and Phil are going to whoop me on the golf course. Lake record single fish possibly on Lake Fork during tournament? No. I personally think that ship has probably sailed for Lake Fork. I don't think we're ever going to see another 18-pounder out of Lake Fork. Unless we get like a big drought for a lot of years and then we get a new lake syndrome and like Texas Parks Wildlife stocks it like crazy during that time period when we had the new lake syndrome. I don't know, man. The modern fishing pressure and everything, I don't think we're ever going to see Lake Fork break the 18-pound mark again. I really don't. There's too many good fishermen out there all the time. We'd have done got closer than that. We had a 15-pounder a few years ago now, about 3 years ago now. We had a 16-pounder about 6 years ago, but the 16 was caught on live bait. The 15 was caught on a black and blue jig. 16-pounder was caught on live bait. And that's kind of it, for those crazy freak fish up over 15 pounds, we just would have gotten closer by now. We haven't seen a 17 bass out of Lake Fork, a 17-pound bass out of Lake Fork, and I couldn't tell you how long. So, I don't know. Brian White, that's funny. My biggest fork bass that I've ever caught. So I always have to, every time somebody asks me what my biggest bass is or whatever, I have to put the disclaimer on it. So I'm primarily a fishing guide. More of my days are spent guiding others than me fishing. So I don't typically catch the biggest fish that get him caught in my boat. Now, I've caught some over 10. I got a 10.6 is my biggest one. But I've had 3 over 12 from people in my boat with me. 2 of them were on Fork. 1 of them was on Athens. The biggest one was actually on Athens. It was 12 pounds, 13 ounces. The other one was 12.3. I've had a 12.3 and a 12.2 caught in my boat on Fork. But for me personally, 10.6. Hydrilla everywhere at Fork for years. I hear you. Yeah, that'd be great. Lakes lose fertility the older they get. I don't see the hydrilla growing in Fork deep enough and staying around long enough, even if they don't spray it. It just won't grow deep enough and stabilize and stay there throughout the year in, year out. And I just don't see the hydrilla thing working out. I don't see it happening in a significant enough way where it will really affect the change of the lake as far as growing the big bass. If it did, it would 1,000% change the size of the fish in the lake. No doubt it would. Now, like I said, if the lake went into a major drought, 10, 15 foot low, something crazy that's never happened before for 5 or 10 years, and then came back up, then you'd have a chance at seeing some real hydrilla growth. Because it would let those nutrients in the soil replenish while the lake was down. Best bait for Sam Rayburn? For me, it was a chatterbait. A chatterbait was the best bait for me when I was at Sam Rayburn. Fork is scary. I don't know how people run it at night. Just looking at your trail, dog. Like, you just looking at that GPS trail, hoping it ain't wrong. Which, modern technology, they're pretty good about that. I've heard of GPS trails being inaccurate. I've never seen mine be inaccurate, so not lately. So, and there's just local knowledge. Local knowledge, just knowing where to go, knowing where you can be a little more lenient at, knowing where you got to slow down and be careful at. Robert Alexander, I got you. I hear you on that one. Gonna start calling your chatterbaits Billy baits? That'd be awesome. I'd be honored. What's my thought on the new lake at Bottom? I think it'll be good, not great. I don't think it's going to be as great as everybody's hoping. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. About that. I think the Lake Boat Ark that's going in up near Bottom, Texas is going to be a good lake. It's going to be a big lake. And hopefully it'll get a bunch. Now, if it gets a bunch of grass growing in it them first 10, 15, 20 years, then, yeah, it's going to be, let's go. Nobody's going to fish Fork anymore. And you know what I might just do? When everybody runs the bottom to go fish that grass and they're all whacking them big ones, I've got enough love and nostalgia for Fork. I might just sit right here at home and be glad that I got all these main lake deep water fish to myself for a change. I'm just saying. I don't know. If the grass grows in there good, it'll be great. It will be great. It's not as dynamic a contours as I would like it to be on that lake. Don't know how fertile it's going to be for vegetation growth. We've had lakes in that area before that have been just flashed and been good and then kind of fizzled out. Lake Cooper, that happened with them. So, Big John, there you go. It'll pop for a few years and then die off like Cooper. Boys, it's getting late, man. I got to go to bed. I got to go make a new whiskey drink and go to bed. I love to keep sitting here talking and answering questions. I get tied up doing this all night, man. I sincerely appreciate you guys staying with me and hanging with me. A lot of y'all stayed late night tonight. Lake Fork Marina tomorrow night, 6 p.m. New guest, kind of a new old guest. Hadn't been in a long time. We're happy to have him back, that's for sure. We're excited about it. So if you're in the area of Lake Fork, please come 6 p.m. Lake Fork Marina. Come see us. I'm going to go ahead and shut her down. Maybe one more of them brown waters. Take a little night nap. And then maybe go, hopefully not die in the wind tomorrow because it's going to blow. It's going to blow tomorrow. It's like 30-mile-an-hour sustained winds or something crazy. I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to hide the best we can. But, hey, man, thank you guys so much. I love the life I live. I go do what I love every day, and it's because of all of you guys that watch and share and like and comment and all that good stuff, man. Thank y'all, thank y'all, thank y'all. And we'll see you next time right here on your Lake Fork Guide.